Okay, this is the Popish Plot by Ben Quick. First, for some background, during the 15 and 1600s, England was going through some major changes religiously and politically. This being due to the English Reformation, starting with Martin Luther's protest of the Catholic Church. This, along with many concerns surrounding the legitimacy of the Church, started a societal shift in perspective surrounding the Church. There was skepticism and distrust about the faith stirring in England. Around this same time, King Henry VIII was King of England. He was married to Catherine of Aragon, but was trying to get out of the marriage. She had been through 6 pregnancies already, with only 1 child surviving. That one child was his daughter named Mary, making him fearful that he would never be given a male heir to precede him with Catherine. However, since divorce is not recognized in Catholicism, King Henry had to make a request for an annulment to the Pope. Unfortunately for Henry, this request was declined. In fear of losing his dynasty, Henry decided to split the Church of England away from the Pope and the Catholic faith. This move split England between Catholics and Protestants, hurting the name of the Catholic faith to the public. Much later, in 1605, a secret plot to assassinate the King of England, known as the Gunpowder Plot, was uncovered a day before it was meant to happen. This plot involved dozens of barrels of gunpowder being placed under the king and the entirety of English Parliament at the state opening of Parliament. This plot was orchestrated by a group of Catholic conspirators, and had it come to fruition, the Protestant rule in England would literally have been blown up, giving the Catholic faith an opportunity to take back rule over England. With the release of this information to the public, many feared that the Catholics were scheming to overthrow the monarchy. With events like these taking place, there was a lot of anti-Catholic sentiment stirring in England. This man's name is Titus Oates. Titus Oates is the main character in this story, the orchestrator behind the Popish Plot, a genius mastermind and an expert in the art of deception. No, not really. Titus Oates was not known for his cunning, nor his strong character. Yet he was able to deceive the population of England in the late 1600s. We will get to that in a second, but first we should try to understand who this guy was. Oates lived a very dishonest and dishonorable life. He was not highly regarded by his peers, creating for himself a not-so-desirable reputation. After dropping out of one university and being expelled from another, he went on to lie about receiving a degree in order to gain a role as a preacher. However, that did not last long, given that the members of his parish did not like him, nor did they agree with anything he had to say. He then went on to lose another preaching job under his father after attempting to usurp the role of a local schoolmaster by falsely accusing him of sodomy. After this highly respectable act, Titus was now on trial for perjury. So, at this point, I think we have a good understanding of what Titus Oates is all about. A few years go by, and Titus joins the Catholic Church after slithering his way out of any prosecution for his crimes. He joins the church in hopes he'd be able to hold down a preacher job better in the Catholic Church. This was around the same time he met his accomplice in creating the Popish Plot, Israel Tonge. Israel Tonge was also not very highly regarded. He was actually thought by many to be insane. So, how did this whole thing kick off? Oates and Tonge together created numerous documents accusing the Catholics of plotting to assassinate the King of England. The documents had a list of names of various Catholics to be involved in the murder. They accused over 100 Jesuits to be involved, and it detailed a plan involving Catholic assassins shooting the king, and if that didn't work, the king would be poisoned by the Queen's doctor. It even accused the Queen of being involved. Both Oates and Tonge, knowing the accusations to have no basis in reality, proceeded to spread the word to as many people as they could. More importantly, they needed King Charles to hear about this imagined attempt on his life. Luckily for Tange, he knew a man who had a connection to the king, a man named Christopher Kirkby, who formerly worked as a chemist for King Charles. Tange approached Kirkby, claiming to have found the documents, not knowing who created them, and the next day, Kirkby informed the king. King Charles wasn't concerned to begin with. He did not believe the accusations for a second, especially considering the credibility of the two men presenting them. However, with many of the king's advisors were very wary. They wanted to be careful in case this plot turned out to be true. So Oates and Tange were interrogated. They were questioned for hours on end. Even though Oates lacked any credibility, he was able to make a convincing case due to his confidence and outstanding memory. He was able to cause quite a bit of concern among the government concerning the king's safety. He was even able to get a handful of Jesuits arrested. But as the word spread to the public, it did not gain much traction at first. This man here is Sir Edmund Barry Godfrey. Sir Edmund Barry Godfrey was Justice of the Peace in England and was hired by Tange to investigate these claims. He felt that the plot would gain more traction if there was an active investigation into it. This did not really work well at first, considering Godfrey was not convinced, given the lack of any evidence. The general public shared that same sentiment with him. But this would all change very soon. On October 12, 1678, Godfrey was mysteriously murdered, and the killers were never found. Even to this day, nobody knows who killed Godfrey. He had choke marks on his neck, as well as a stab wound from his own sword. This was in no way orchestrated by Oates and Tange. However, it was crucial for their narrative. This was a stroke of luck that they could have never even imagined. Since Godfrey was looking into the plot at the time of his death, and no explanation was given for why he was murdered, people assumed he was silenced by Catholics before he could speak out about his findings. This suspicion gave legitimacy to the Popish Plot, and word was out that the Catholics are planning to assassinate the king. Without the help of Godfrey's death, Oates' story would never have been given any real legitimacy. The king, in particular, was almost certain that it was all nonsense. He even caught Oates lying on multiple occasions. But what mattered more than the king believing the plot was that the public was now all in on believing it. Now these claims were being taken seriously. The power was in the hands of Titus Oates. He had the power to dictate who was guilty or who was innocent, leading to 3 Catholics being executed for the murder of Godfrey. But the fallout did not end there. Oates continued to perpetuate his claims to the masses, leading to a total of 35 Catholic men to be executed for the lies of Oates and Tange. There was now significant paranoia in England. People were fearful of their lives, especially those in some way connected to the crown. There was even fear of another gunpowder plot. But it was the worst for the Catholics. The hysteria led to the name of the Catholic faith to be completely tarnished for a time. It got so bad to the point where a proclamation was made that forced many Catholics to leave London, and they were not allowed to be within 12 miles of the city. This did not last forever, but the detriment to the reputation of the Catholic Church persisted. Oates' actions caused mass hysteria and paranoia in England surrounding the Catholic Church. The already stirring distrust in the Catholic faith was sent to new heights with Oates' scheme. During the height of the chaos and confusion, being Catholic was a crime in the eyes of the public. Oates, however, did not get away with the creation of the Popish Plot. As tension died down and people started coming to their own conclusions, they were more inclined to distrust Oates' story. There still was no evidence that proved the documents to be true. The convenience of Godfrey's murder propelled the story into the sky, and with emotions running high, people believed it. But after 35 men were tried, executed, and all pleaded innocent, there was not a strong feeling that justice was being served. Titus Oates once again lost all credibility and was tried for perjury and thrown into prison for life. He stayed there for 3 years before being pardoned by the Protestant William III. He lived a lonely life after being released from prison and eventually dying in 1705 after being forgotten by the public.